guys, and welcome to part 3 of the Clio 172 Cup build. Now, if you've been following the channel, you should have hopefully seen the progress now. If you haven't already checked out the other 2 episodes, it's worth doing so that they're in order for the series. It's all back together. It's on the road this week, and you know what? I took it out Monday for MOT, and I was in 2 minds as to what was going to happen. It was one of those things I thought, have I built something so stupid with all the seats out of it? It's just going to be horrible to drive, but my mind was completely put at ease Monday morning. I was like a little kid giggling all the way to the MOT centre. Absolutely great fun. So yeah, follow us on this one. We'll go through the next part of the stages of the build. So for those of you who've been following me on Instagram, you'll see that we've got the new Saybelt steering wheel on. The Pure Motorsport shifter kit is in too. It's really starting to come together now. I'm really happy with the outcome. And like I said, the driver went on Monday. I couldn't have asked for more from it. I took my girlfriend out in it. We went up to French night at Ace Cafe after the MOT once it passed, with no advisories. And it's nuts. It really is a bonkers little thing. There are quite a lot of rattles, I've got to be honest. I wouldn't want to drive it daily, although I have gone to work in it twice this week. And for the first 15 minutes, absolutely great. You start getting stuck in traffic, novelty wears off pretty quickly. But that's not what built this car. This car is to go hooning around the back roads on a Sunday morning drive. So hopefully it should never get stuck in those sort of situations. But we're going to run a shakedown tomorrow. We'll be going over to the Cotswolds. So hopefully I'll actually have a video on board of the car driving. I'll throw a quick clip in now of it driving to the MOT, but my camera was a bit of a funny angle. It was cold in the morning and damp, but it gives you an idea of what it's like inside the car. So as discussed in the last video, this one was going to be more based around the engine. I had a few more bits to do with the Geo side of things. Pure Motorsport shifter kit, just absolutely ridiculous. Really does transform the car. If you're using your car as a track car or anything where spirited driving's involved, it's a really nice upgrade. Unfortunately, there is quite a lot of vibration that comes from it. Now, I found that when you drive along, if you just rest your hand on it, it does seem to shut it up considerably. But we were coming down the motorway on the M25, sitting at 70, and the rattle was just horrible. But you don't notice it, like I say, when you're punching through the gears. It's just when you're cruising along. If we sat at 65, it seemed to be absolutely fine. So obviously one way of slowing you down. But other than that, really happy with the kit. Glad I've done it on this, and it's really sort of brought it all in together. We've also got the Saybelt steering wheel on there now, where I had the perforated leather one before with none of the horn, because I've got it on the stalk. Absolutely beautiful to drive with. I've had to buy myself some driving gloves because it is suede like Alcantara, and it'll all go flat and horrible because I get sweaty hands. For those of you who've seen the Nürburgring Euro trip, you'll see what happens when I drive spiritedly, so it does make a mess, the steering wheel. So I've done with the gloves to try and keep it just, you know, in good order and stop it going all flat and stuck together. Another little modification I did to the car, just again back onto the interior quickly, was the throttle pedal. Now on these, it's quite a wide step from the brake to the throttle pedal, and I've just found that when you're trying to essentially heel toe down through the box, it's quite a spread, especially in normal shoes. So essentially you just undo 3 bolts off of the throttle pedal, unconnect the plug, put it in a vise and just bend the steel arm, obviously being careful not to damage the motor, because if you bend it from the motor while it's in the car, you'll probably break it. But really quick, efficient mod, brings it nice and close together, so when you are coming down the box, you can keep your foot firmly on the brake and give a blip of the throttle. So yeah, 10-minute job, makes a big difference, but obviously personal opinion, some people are completely happy with the pedal alignment as it is. So the engine bay was looking quite sorry for itself, years of neglect unfortunately, so it was time to fully strip it back. I knew I needed to do the cam belt, so it made perfect sense at this stage to get everything done and dusted. Now the RS2 unfortunately was available in a non-powder coated version, which the one on this one had been sold as, so oxidization, it just really was looking sorry for itself. So I ended up completely stripping the RS2 down, everything all still intact, which is good to hear. The stainless steel bolts, no corrosion obviously on those, but I ended up taking the base manifold off, stripping it back, giving it a good clean, and then trying this new wrinkle paint stuff. Now I'd heard about it, I'd seen it in the Honda world, it's not something I've done before. I was actually really impressed with it for the money. It was about £12 for a can, and you just heat the item up, paint it on, and as it dries it gives like a wrinkle effect, and apparently it is oil resistant, but we'll see about that. Obviously I haven't done enough miles on the car to say yeah it's easy to clean with, or whether it's just going to snag any cloth you put on there. Also sent the plenum away to be re-clear coated. It's, again, I don't know what happened to it. It's got to be now 7 or 8 years old, and it had all sort of oxidised. The clear coat had cracked. I don't know whether it was a cleaning product that was used on it. So sent it away to some guys I work with. They sanded it all back, put a brand new clear coat on it, and do you know what? It has transformed it, especially with the base manifold being repainted. It looks absolutely spectacular. So put that to one side, and then it was on to stripping the engine down. So I'll overlay the images now. It was looking pretty tired, for especially the rocker cover, the engine mount, and everything was just looking very, very sort of aged, so to speak. So with the engine finally coming apart, all the bits were deep cleaned. Again, I wanted to go with the wrinkle effect on the rocker cover and the engine mounts and bits, just to sort of tie it all in. I wasn't going for a super bling engine bay, I just like a clean engine bay, so especially when you open it up and if it looks like it's been in the bottom of a canal, it's just a little disappointing, especially as I think the rest of the car has really come a long way. So ended up doing all that, resealing the rocker cover because it had a slight weep from the back. Now with the Clios, to do the rocker cover, you do have to take the cam belt off because the rocker cover holds the cams. So it made sense to do it all while it was apart, and then I gave the heads of the bolts for the rocker cover a quick spray over with some generic silver paint, which really tied it in. It just makes it look, again, all that clean and finished product. Genuine Renault cam belt, water pump, coolant, all from Renault Parts Direct. The guys didn't do me any discounts, so I'm not name shouting, but I was impressed with the service and the price they offered, and they had it all sent out next day. So yeah, really impressed with the guys for getting that all sent to me. Once the cam belt was on, obviously genuine Renault timing tools used to remove them. When it went back on, I've ended up using what they call a group end setting bar, and that essentially advances the inlet cam around 7 degrees. Now, we had some really good success with this on the Clios. It doesn't necessarily give you tons of horsepower, but for the payoff below 2000 RPM, you do get a bit more up top. So we've seen good gains with it. I mean, anywhere from sort of 5, 7, 8 horsepower. It's difficult to say because we never went back to back the same day on the rolling road to test that. And the problem is you can go one day where, you know, the humidity is different, the air temp's different. There's a lot of variables in using a rolling road, but we did see good gains. It did seem to shift the power up top. If you do run the RS2 and you run the group end timing, you need to leave the switch points the same. Whereas if you're running the standard timing, we suggest leaving the VVT on all the way to the red line. So just something to bear in mind if you are going to go down that route or you've had the car mapped previously. Once it was all back together, obviously timing everything up is crucial on these engines. They're fully floating. If you get it wrong, you're just going to cost yourself power and drivability. The amount of times I've had jobs come in with these where people have timed them up incorrectly, not used genuine locking tools because they are expensive. A set of locking tools is sort of £150 upwards from memory. And if you don't use them, you just can't get it right, unfortunately, and it just sacrifices the performance and the drivability of the car. So all genuine tools, obviously minus the setting bar, which has got the group end timing cap. I also put on the core plug, which covers the camshafts for the timing access. I put on their group end, so if anyone other than me was to take it apart in the future, hopefully that would make sense as to why it doesn't appear to be timed correctly. So at this stage, I was taking the car apart, and initially I wasn't going to change the radiator. It looks tired, but I thought, you know what, it'll be all right. It's easy to change at a later date. And then the more I looked at it while I was working on the car, the more it was annoying me, the state of it. So I ended up removing the radiator, and thank God I did, because when I took it out, the corrosion on the bottom of it was absolutely disgusting. And if you're somewhere at the Nürburgring and you spill coolant for a failed radiator, you're going to be liable for the mess you cause and the damage to other cars. So for the sake of 80 quid, Pure Motorsport had it shipped out to me again. Very efficient service from the guys there. It was with me next day, and it just decided, you know what, for the sake of £80, just get it done, because it could ruin a trip. It could ruin a holiday. Drive all that way out to Germany, or if we go up to North Coast 500, that £80 is going to seem so insignificant considering I've done everything else in the engine bay to prevent, you know, as best as I can, any failures. So the only thing left to do at that stage was the gearbox oil. Now the gearbox oil had been in there God knows how long. Renault seems to suggest it's a lifelong product, but I ended up dropping it out, and I've run in Castrol Syntrans. I'm happy to report it's really good stuff. I've used it in a lot of cars over the years. It's fully synthetic, it's got smooth shift technology, but it does seem to work. Even from cold, the box engages brilliantly, and I've had absolutely no issues using it in the past. It's difficult to say how much of a difference it's made because I've got the Pure Motorshift kit on here at the moment. So as I say, for me, peace of mind again, it's only 3 litres required, and obviously that's now done, definitely for my ownership. So all back together, moment of truth. It doesn't matter how many times I do these cam belts. Probably at one stage in my life I was doing 2 to 3 of them a week. You always get that nervous. Well, it's been apart for a long time, but thankfully cranked on the button as always. Happy to report everything idles fine, even with the group end. Sounds a bit slaggish, but it's a race car. So So with that done, it was then on to the wishbones. As I said in the previous video in the handling, I went genuine Renault and I went Powerflex Black Series for the bushes, and I went Melly HD on the track rod ends. Now the reason for that is eventually I would like to change the rack out for a closer ratio rack, potentially non-power steering to remove the drain from the engine. But I say it's one of those things that we'll look into nearer the time. Again, there's stuff in the phase 2 build that I'm going to be taking on over next winter where the engine will be coming out and hopefully we'll be putting a limited slip diff in it. So the next thing on the list, as a big list I've been going through, was brake disc and pads. So I ended up using Cam Racing. Again, I'm not plugging them, I didn't get any discount from them. Just ended up ordering their race package kit for the standard calipers, which was Brembo discs and PBS pads. Now I hadn't run these before, but I'd heard a lot of good things about them. I did toy in the previous video, as I said, of running the big 4-pot Brembos from the 197-200 Amagan, but look at the weight of the thing. Is it really going to need any more stopping power over a standard car? So ended up, like I say, using the PBS race pads, the discs, stripped the calipers apart, new pistons, new seals, cleaned all the sliders, just so that everything was working perfectly again. And do you know what? Out on the run Monday, how fast did I get up to? 70 mile an hour, firm braking once they've been bedded in. I'm happy to report they just exceed my expectations massively. But that does bring me on to another thing. I've got to say, it's early days, and I've only done, like I say, 2 drives in it, and I do need to get the Geo done because it's done by eye, but I don't think the 808Rs are as good as I was expecting. I was expecting a really naughty tyre from that, and I'm not saying they're poor quality. Say, get the Geo done, it might transform it, but I wasn't blown away by the grip levels. The coilovers feel great, but as I say, they are a cheap tyre. They're meant to be a track tyre. It hasn't been boiling out, so maybe they could do with a bit more heat in them. And to be fair, I'm comparing them to the Michelin Super Sports, which are a fabulous tyre, but obviously a lot more expensive, so you get what you pay for. But I'll report back on the next video. Like I say, we're going for a drive in the Cotswolds tomorrow, so let's see how it gets on. So with the engine bay all back together and sort of ghetto rigged to start with a battery just hanging out of there, it was time to put the air filter and airbox together. Now I had been thinking about this for a long time, and it's something I built in the early days, but I hadn't quite had it done to the bonnet shut. So took the headlight out, bumper off, made a cardboard template out of a sort of old Neil Fist pressure washer box, which works absolutely brilliantly because it was quite a thick cardboard. Measured it up, I could see through the headlight to where my clearances were. Once that was all built, it was just a case of ordering some 2mm sheet alley, folding it all on the bench in the garage, a bit ghetto, but eventually I will build a carbon version because I can use the alley version to sort of wet lay carbon on top of, so I believe. But we'll have a look at that again in phase 2 when it's off the road in the winter and we're doing the gearbox with the diff in it and all the other niggly jobs I discover with flaws throughout the summer. So heat shield done, Odyssey PC 680 race cell bolted on as well, because like I say, we've got no radio, it's only really the fans and lights, and the cranking ampage on those things is brilliant, but it's not a great battery if you do use the car daily or leave it standing for long periods of time uncharged. But it gave me the space to build the airbox and obviously save a little bit of weight as well with an absorbent glass mat battery. You can lay them down as well in any direction. Not that that was a problem for me, but if you wanted to put it under the passenger seat, up on the bulkhead, I've seen people put them everywhere because of the space. They are really good for that. So final thing to discuss, took the car out on the road, like I say, Monday, Tuesday, went for a bit of a back road blast Monday evening when the roads were a little bit quieter. Overall, very happy. I'm thinking I'm going to tweak the alignment a little bit on the gear stick today, which is why it's back out. We're going to have to raise the rear a little bit because I'm getting a lot of rubbing. I'm getting some other knocks as well, so I need to put some tie wraps around the harness eyelets just to stop them shaking about over bumps, because you get this over everything combined with the gear stick, it ends up becoming just a bit of a rattle that can be avoided. I think I've got a little knock from the exhaust again. We'll have a look into it, and the front's going to need some more trimming out of the sort of the plates in the arches, because on hard lock, when you're coming into a corner under heavy braking, you can hear it. Sounds horrible. So yeah, back up in the air today, get that sorted. It'll be off for Geo, and then tomorrow will be a blast in the Cotswolds. So hopefully the next video for you guys, it won't be just going on about what I've done to it. You'll actually get to see it in action. So if you enjoyed the video, give us a like and subscribe, and obviously check out the Instagram page as well. Till next time guys, thanks for watching.